how are you? Hope you're good. As you may know, this year me and a lot of other Hogwarts students sat our exams, and we're hoping to repeat this every year just for fun, because we're just that keen on studying, clearly. If you're new or you just stumbled across this and you don't know what owls or newts are, and the whole Magical Readathon deal, I will link those videos down below, which explains everything. I just don't want to repeat myself because it will take a while and I don't want to bore the people who do know. It's also getting really dark really quickly, so I think I'm gonna try and be quite swift. But even if you're not following the Magical Readathon, this is just your normal wrap-up either way, so I hope you guys enjoy. And without further ado, let's get into it. So today I got another magical letter from the Owl Post, and this time it's for my NEWTs results. So this is how the certificate looks like. I will link it down below for everyone else to enjoy if you participated. It just says NEWTs certificate. This is to certify that G has sat the nastily exhausting wizarding test exams in 2018 and has achieved the following grades. And so this is obviously going to be personalized for everyone according to what subjects they took. I personally sat 6 owls. In 5 of them I've achieved an outstanding, and in 1 of them I've achieved acceptable. So let me go through this and walk you through what I read. The first exam on my schedule was Astronomy. For that, the prompt was to read a book with stars on the cover. So for that I chose The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. This is a story about a girl who was actually conceived in space because her parents were a couple of researchers traveling to find an alternative planet for Earthlings to live in the future. However, when we start the story, she has lived alone for 5 years. She is getting pretty lonely out there. The only human contact that she has is with a NASA assistant or whoever that is, like a communicator from NASA, but because of the space between her and Earth, she has like a year's delay between the messages. But she gets a message that some other ship has actually launched, and is, because it's launched after a while, is due to catch up with her, and she's not gonna be alone anymore. Her and this guy on the other ship start to exchange messages, and they get close and close. This was actually much fluffier, however, with very, very dark parts in some bits than I anticipated. It is a sci-fi, but it read almost more like a contemporary. It was cutesy. I liked the plot twist, and there were quite a few, so I'm happy with that. It read very, very easily because the writing style was extremely simple. So if you're looking for something non-committal, or you are new to fantasy genre, for sci-fi genre, this might be a very, very good pick for you. I enjoyed that I read it extremely quickly, which is not something that I say about a lot of books, but I'm not gonna lie, the writing seemed very, very simplistic to the point of I felt like a lot of us could have written that, you know what I mean, without a lot of knowledge for it. It was a nice start to the readathon because it was quick and it gave me like a nice push to read more, and you get me into the mood. So I gave it 3 stars, but it was definitely on a lower side of 3 stars. For exceeded expectations, in Astronomy we had Sky in the title, and I read Sky in the Deep. Again, this wasn't as mind-blowing as I was expecting it to be. However, I did have a good time, especially in the second half of the book. The first half was very, very hard for me to go through. I know this is a beloved book, relatively. The second half, I will say, or like the last 3 quarters, it was really strong, and I really enjoyed. The main thing that I really enjoyed about this was the healthy relationship between our main romantic interests, because for once there was like no nonsense, there were no super obvious conflicts with like super obvious solutions. It was like very, very well understood, and I really enjoyed the romance in this because of how no nonsense it was, and it's so rare these days. It was like a breath of fresh air, and for that I absolutely loved it. This one just scraped 4 stars in my review system, which is called Copile. I will try and remember to link that down below as well if you're interested to see how I rate my books. So this one just scraped, if I remember correctly, just scraped 4 stars because the beginning was really slow. I think this is basically marketed as this like Viking thing, but it really wasn't. It was some sort of, it was like a bit Scandinavian because of some words, but mainly it was 2 tribes that have been enemies for forever now, and because their religion is the same but they're believing in like different sides of it, and you can sort of guess what happens when our main character is forced to sort of integrate herself into the other side, and you know, your usual like learn that they're also human type of story. But I did really enjoy the romance in it, so it was a very, very weak 4 stars, but strong 3 stars. For outstanding, a book set in another world, I read Descender. This is a comic volume. It is about a boy who is created to be brought into a family to act as a friend or a mentor to a little kid in the family, so they can just be like together, almost like a pet, but AI, you know, and more useful. But we start our journey with him waking up, and a lot of the population has been wiped by these massive robots that appeared in the sky 10 years ago, and his code seems to be identical to those, and because of that a lot of the groups are now hunting him because they want to figure out what is going on and how to beat them. I got attached to this little boy because we get to see from his perspective his memories and his attachment to the family that is now gone, and it was so incredibly touching that I absolutely adore this. I gave it, what did I give it? I can't find it. I think I maybe not included in my Goodreads, but I would say I give it 4 or 5 stars even. I don't really put these through compile, but it was definitely strong. I really, really want to see what happens next. And yeah, definitely recommend for a sci-fi comic book. My next exam was potions, and for acceptable you have to read something with the color in the title. I went for Orange Tome 2. This was a big one. Orange I have mixed feelings for because I really adore the story and what it stands for. It's about a group of people who receive letters from their future selves, and at first they think it's a joke, but then everything starts happening according to the letters, and they realize that their future selves found a way to send these warnings about what to do and what not to do, because they lose a friend of their group to suicide later on, and their past selves are trying to fix that. Second tome, I really, really enjoyed how we got a different perspective. We got a perspective of the person that is depressed, and I felt like, because it was set through the same events but showing perspectives from the friends and then from him, and it was very, very well done. I felt like it was so beautifully done. The misunderstandings of little things, the thoughts behind the anger. He was very focused on judging himself, but he came across as mean to others. It was very, very well done. It was just beautiful. What I did really, really dislike about the whole series though is how much responsibility it puts on the friends, because of course you need to be supportive and you need to be caring, however you cannot put somebody else's life in your hands. You cannot think that you're responsible for somebody's well-being entirely. Yes, you can influence it, but you should never feel responsible for somebody else's life, because that is a very, very unhealthy and damaging way to live. And that was, at first I thought it was like, yes, this is a very, very natural way for people to feel guilty about or to react to this, but then they never really addressed it. So it wasn't like it was mentioned and then corrected and being like, so this is a normal way to feel, but you shouldn't do that, you know, like they understand that later, but not so much. It was still very much it just felt like they put the whole of the responsibility on the friends, which I don't think is fair whatsoever. As I said, I think you can definitely play part in people's happiness and well-being and lives. However, no one else should be responsible for you being alive but yourself. No one else should have the massive weight on their shoulders of being responsible for your happiness and for your well-being. That is just absolutely insane and damaging. So I didn't like that, but I still love what this was trying to do, and especially approaching this topic. There is a trigger warning obviously for this theme, so if you think that that's something that might really be triggering for you, I would probably avoid this. The other things that I want to mention that's not related to the actual plot is the translation. I felt like sometimes it was a bit iffy and sometimes it was very, very simplified, even though I understand this is not necessarily aimed for older audience. Sometimes the translation to English felt a bit like, what? And for this I gave 3 stars because I couldn't ignore those issues that I felt, but I still appreciate it existing. Another manga that I read with a male main character, and that was Tokyo Ghoul. I really did enjoy this. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was nothing, you know, like, oh my god, I must immediately grab the second one, but it was definitely enjoyable. This is a world where there's ghouls that live in Tokyo, and they basically look like humans, but they eat humans, and our main character obviously crosses paths with them and then has to learn how to live as basically half human, half that. Don't know much about it actually. It was I like the pacing of it. Obviously it's like an introduction, it's the first volume. I thought it was alright. I gave it 3 stars. I'm looking forward to getting more. It's not necessarily on my like immediate TBR, but I do want to because mainly I want to watch the anime after. Then we had a book with more than 350 pages. For this I went with Leah on the Offbeat, and oh my god, I have never felt so much dislike for a main character than I had, or for a character in general, than I had for Leah. I know a lot of people found her relatable, and don't get me wrong, I've struggled with weight for every single day of my life, alright? There were definitely more factors on paper that I should have related to her on, but really couldn't get past of how actually horrible she was to everyone in her life. I didn't have a problem until I realized when I finished the book that it wasn't addressed, and everyone was solved through external factors. There was no development within. She stayed the same. She sort of swapped personalities in the last 2 pages because of something that happened externally. Again, she screwed with multiple people's feelings. One person that was really fancying her, she completely used for her own like justification of feeling better, and it's just insane like how much I dislike this character. There's a lot of people who also feel like that, but there's also a lot of people like her, which is great. Like, if you like this book, if it helped you in any way, that's absolutely amazing. I just personally cannot. I can't. I understand insecurities, I understand anger that might lash out on someone else, but you don't, that's not a justification to never solve that. That's not a justification to treat other people. She's supposed to, from the very beginning, she was supposed to be this like plus size person who doesn't want to look any other way, which is great, which is such an amazing thing to accomplish, you know. She clearly isn't happy with that situation because then she goes on to bash everyone else who looks different. She's always misunderstood, and she's always victimizing herself in her own head, even though clearly everyone around her are really trying their best to include her and make her happy. But it's just, it was such a mess. She's the most ungrateful, mean-spirited, attention-seeking person I've ever read about. There's a person in the book that is not sure about their sexuality, and they come out to her or confide in her and say there might be a little bit something, and then she completely discredits that. She says like, you can't be a little bit that and you can't be a little bit that, because apparently she's the judge of everything and she knows everything the best. And that again also was never addressed, about how she treated someone who was trying to come out, because clearly she's the only one that can set the categories of what you can and cannot be. At one point she straight up says that she's happy her friends are miserable because then they will know how she feels, even though literally she is the cause of them feeling that shitty, and she could change them back to not feeling that shitty. Her friends are trying to like be nice to her, and then she takes it the wrong way, and then she makes herself feel shitty. Do you know what I mean? You know, if you like her, that's fair enough. Personally, I'm just very sad no one gave her, you know, a bit of a reality check in the book, and it was just, overall it was crap. I gave it a 1 star, don't get me wrong, I loved Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. I really had a great time with that book. Leah was never my favorite character even from that one, but I thought maybe we're gonna address the girl to girl hate here. We sort of did. I still don't justify it whatsoever, so a 1 star, which is very rare in my books, but hey, that was an adventure. Moving on from that, we have Charms, and there was a book with magic for acceptable, and I finished my reread of Harry Potter. It was an audiobook for me, so I read the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I wonder how long it will be until I start it again. Probably not very long, but then I read the script for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I think I already touched upon how I felt about this book, and also about everything throughout my vlog, so if you want to hear more thoughts about each and every single book of this list, you can go ahead and watch my vlogs if you feel like it. But I felt like it was alright. It doesn't need to exist. No. Is it beautiful? Cover-wise and illustration-wise, absolutely. Did it make me want to watch the movie again? Yes, and I did. Other than that, I felt like it's pretty useless, since it's basically the same as the movie, which I know it's supposed to be. I understand this is a script for the movie. I don't know. I can't say that I enjoyed it that much, because why read it if you can watch the movie, if it's just, you know, the same script but more. So I didn't even rate it because I didn't know what to feel about that. Then there was an outstanding for Charms, the book that leaves a mark, I chose The Savage Song. I can't say that it like left a big mark, but I can say that I enjoyed it pretty much. I gave 4 stars, I'm fairly certain, yeah, 4 stars for this one. So this is about a world where there's this main city and it's split in 2 halves for 2 wealthy families. On one side you can buy said security, and on the other side sort of like monsters sort of rule or like govern things, but the monsters in this scenario are someone who are born from crimes of humans, and not all of the monsters are actually monstrous. So there's like 3 or 4 types, I think 3 maybe, types of monsters, and one of them is one of our main characters. I can't remember the name, I won't remember the type of monster he is, but they're basically a very, very rare species, and they're definitely more humane than some of the humans in the book, which is always very interesting. So we have a lot of morally gray characters, which I think Victoria Schwab does really, really well. I thoroughly enjoy this. It was very easy to read, and really short chapters is just everything. So our main character is a human who hates monsters, and monster who wants to be human, and at some point they need to work together to achieve something. If you think that this is something that you might enjoy, I highly recommend you try and pick it up, because it's definitely not something super hard to read, and I think it's pretty rewarding for your time. As I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then we move on to Herbology. First, for acceptable, it was a book with green cover. I read Snot Girl. This is a very unusual plot, I suppose. The main character is a very famous blogger. The main character is a famous lifestyle blogger, but she has this problem of allergies, and so, you know, Snot Girl, but is much more about the unflattering side of someone who needs to put up this profile of being absolutely perfect. Pretty much depression and anxiety and extreme insecurities. And it gets pretty dark in places, and I actually really enjoyed it. I love the art style. I actually read the first volume and the second volume as well, even though it's not in my NEWTs, but yeah, I liked it. Then I got another comic, and this one was Mara. This was so surprising. I absolutely loved it. I think I didn't have like very high expectations, but I rated this 4 stars. I really, really liked it. This is an anti-hero story, and this is way less about volleyball than you would think, because I thought this was gonna be like galactic football. Anyone watch that? Like, I used to love that. This is basically about this girl, Mara, who is seen to use some sort of magical powers or supernatural powers to win one of her matches, and there's a big scandal because she's very, very well known, and then we see her escaping and trying to get away from everyone trying to capture her because of that. It's a lot about government, and this is the world where everyone's main purpose in life is to serve their country. Because she's supposed to flee, she gets this new perspective of how everything works in this world, and we see flashbacks of her upbringing, and it's so good. I felt it was so good, because it just showed you what a detached parenting and this like your country comes first mentality can do to people, how quickly people are to shun others that are different from them, and how damaging it can be to put your country before yourself. And oh my god, I just really liked it. And plus, this is possibly one of the most beautiful artworks for me. I just absolutely loved it. Wait, I'll find one. Like, look, it's so like clean and beautiful. I just really like it. Anyway, then I have something with sun in the title, and I have another manga. I read a lot of mangas. And this one is I Hear the Sunspot. This is a story about a guy who has hearing disability and needs to find a person who can help him take notes at the university, and this guy that then takes the notes for him is someone who's struggling financially. And it's a very, very subtle friendship and love story, and I adored it. It was very beautiful, very calm, very refreshing, and quite funny, and it was adorable. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. Then on to Transfiguration, a book with grey cover, and for that one I read a comic, and this is volume 4 of Lock and Key. Now I only have 2 left. Lock and Key is a supernatural series written by Joe Hill, who's the son of Stephen King, about a family who move into this old family mansion and find a lot of mysterious keys that do different things. Like, one can open your mind and you can remove everything from the mind, and one opens the door, when you pass through it you turn into an animal, that kind of thing, like supernatural things. But it's actually a very, very dark story about discrimination and depression. There's a lot of, it's definitely an adult one, there's a lot of brutality in it. It's not for a younger audience whatsoever, and if you're a bit more sensitive, it might not be for you either. Yeah, they moved to that mansion because one of the member of the family gets murdered. They just stumble across that manor and all hell gets loose. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was maybe like, I don't think it was the best one in the series. I gave it 3 stars, but I'm very looking forward to see what comes out of it, because this is a finished comic series, so that's exciting. Then a book from new author, or something from new author that you haven't read before, and there's another manga, and this time it's Deadman Wonderland. I think I enjoyed this one more than Tokyo Ghoul, which was surprising because I thought it was gonna be the other way around. But this is basically about a guy who gets into this massacre and is the sole survivor of the massacre, but there's some sort of again supernatural person that actually kills his classmates, but he gets the blame for it because obviously he's the only one there. And he is put into this prison that is actually made into it's basically like Disneyland, you know, it's like an attraction park. I think technically it's named that it's gonna be to fund the reconstruction of the city after this massive earthquake, I think. They're basically using these prisoners for entertainment of others. There's actually school trips there. It's very, very bizarre. They're not treating people as people, but everyone in there basically have a death sentence. So does our main character, and you have to buy these pills in order to survive. And there's this weird girl that really reminds me of Ari from The Name of the Wind. She's very nonsensical and like whimsical. It's a very intriguing story, and I cannot wait to learn what happens next. I'll definitely gonna pick that up soon. Then for the outstanding N.E.W.T.s Transfiguration, we have Empress of 1,000 Skies with the most beautiful cover. But this book took me for absolutely ever to read, and I think this is the reason why I only got to acceptable in Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is completely fine because this one was the last one in my actual like TBR that I meant to do. Everything else is an extra. So this is a story, oh my god, it's so hard to explain this one because it was all over the place. So this is technically a story about a girl that has lost all of her family and then was put into a different city until she turns 16 and can take over her throne because she is gonna be the empress of this unity. And space is a sci-fi, so you have like 2 opposing sides. There's an assassination attempt on her all on the way that she is going to like the main city again, and then she has to flee. She's presumed dead, and this guy that lives on this side but actually has heritage of that other side that they're fighting gets pinned all the blame, and they are restarting the war that was solved by her now dead father. And it's just like, it had all of the promises. I just think it was not executed well. I felt like they wanted to focus on everything and include so much that everything ended up being sort of lacking a little bit. I don't know if I will continue with the series because I think it's definitely a series. I think they were also building on this suspense, but it was so painfully obvious of what the actual reveal was that there was literally 0 suspense, and it just felt a bit unnatural. So this one actually only scraped 2 stars, but you know, it's not the worst thing that I've ever read. And then the very last thing that I've listened and read, just swapped about, was The Slow Regard of Silent Things. I was very excited about this because by my favorite author is Patrick Rothfuss, who wrote The Name of the Wind and the Kingkiller Chronicles. I was hesitant because I remember trying to read this when I was taking a bath, I think, and I started reading it and I was like, oh, I don't feel like reading it. And I was sort of right. It wasn't for me. It was something, it's very lyrical, there's no plot. He does warn you at the beginning that there's not gonna be any plot, and I know a lot of people enjoy this, and I know myself, and I would have loved this around 4 or 5 years ago because I was actually writing stuff like that 4 or 5 years ago, but I think I'm over that, but I can see why it might be very helpful and very touching for a lot of people. It was just simply not for me. If you read The Name of the Wind, you know how Ari is. I also always thought it was Ori, but I listened to the audiobook and Patrick is actually narrating it, and it's Ari. So add that to the list of things I was mispronouncing for most of my life. Yeah, I don't regret that I read it. It took me way longer than it should have. It's a short novella. It's beautiful. It has illustrations, which, you know, very exciting. things like that. It's pretty cool. Because it didn't have like a plot, I can't really tell you what it was about. I'm not gonna even rate it because there's nothing to rate it on, and it's just, I'm gonna stop talking about it. But that is everything. I'm not gonna include a TBR in this video because this video is gonna be already very long. So in total, I think I read 16 things. I know a lot of things are comics and mangas, but the rules were that if it counts on Goodreads, it counts, so it's all fine. I'm very proud of myself. I am not the fastest readers in the world, and this is quite a lot. I did start reading the Wicked Deep, but I didn't finish it in time for the readathon. As I said, the result letter or certificate will be linked down below if you guys fancy that for yourself. If you missed this year, don't be worried. It is an annual thing, and I'm also planning things in between that you can participate. One thing should be happening in October, I think, but I will let you know when I know. I had a very brilliant time. It was a lot. So many lovely people that I met through this, so many lovely people that participated and cheered each other on Twitter, in Discord, and it was overall super magical, and you guys is definitely what made this magical. If you guys participated as well, let us know how you did. Let us know if you had any of these as well, and did you agree with my thoughts or not. What did you read through this month? What was your favorite? I really want to see all of the comments down below, so please speak to me. But yeah, I think that's everything. I've been talking for quite a long time now, so I need to like go and chill. But thank you so much guys for watching. We have officially finished the main exams for 2018 for this Magical Readathon series. I cannot wait to go full on extra for next year and make out all of the careers and how you need to do, and I'm just already excited. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you also participated, thank you so much for being so supportive. Okay, I feel like I need to stop because this is almost like, you know, you get like a reward or whatever and you're like, I want to thank to all my family and people who contributed. But seriously though, I do. You guys are the best. Thank you for being so awesome. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!